Um, hey guys, hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to everybody to the session on internships in core aerospace. Our panelists for today's session are Irene Grace, a Y18 student, and Pence Mataria, a Y17 student. So currently interning at Airbus, Irene has also interned at Range Aerospace Private Limited and Zeus Numerics Private Limited in the past. She's also working with Professor Navroz currently on instability of wingtip vortices. Uh, on the other hand, Pence has been associated with the aerial robotics team and has even represented IIT Kanpur in the Inter IIT Tech Meet, along with being the team head of aerial robotics. He has also been the associate head of the SNT Council. Pence too was shortlisted by Airbus but could not continue due to the pandemic. So we'll have them as the panelists for today's session, and this session will be proceeding in a very structured manner. At the end of which the panel will be open to questions from you guys. So please hold on to your questions till the end, or if you uh, or if you feel like it, you can add the questions to the chat box, and Irene and Pence will go through it as and when they feel apt. Hey Irene, hey Pence.
Hello, am I audible?
Hi, can you see me?
Yeah, hey Pence. Hello.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah, your voice is audible. Yes, so kicking things off, could you tell all of us what your motivation was for pursuing a core internship? What previous projects or courses that you'd done, instigated that, interest in you, and which led to you exploring core aerospace?
Yes, Irene, I think you can begin. I'll head up later.
Okay. Okay, so I basically wanted to do aerospace even before I joined college. So for me, it was more like how to stay in core. Like once you come into IIT, you'll realize there are so many other options. So easily you can do non-core stuff. So the main motivation is to stay in core. So for that, I used to keep in touch with other people who are interested in core. Look up to other seniors, like Pence is one of them. So look up to other people who are also in core, so that while other people are pursuing their dreams, what they want to do, you can still do your core interests. Keep a set of good people who are interested in core. That's important. Other than that, when you join college, if you want a non-core intern, it's a way more structured way to get it. Like to get a non-core placement or intern, you have to do competitive coding, you have to do your analytics, quant. So it's like, if you know what else other than core you can do something. You can start off in first year, but if it's in core, then you have to do all the exploring and figuring out what you like. So your final course in propulsion starts only in the final last semester of third year. So till then you cannot wait to figure out if you like propulsion or not. You would have to do projects, do electives, or at least intuitively figure out what is your area of interest and proceed with it, like with interns and projects from second year. A lot of it is on your own. Like you have to do a little bit of work.
Hmm.
Thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, cool. So for me, it was, more sort on the robotic side. So I ended up getting aerospace, and now I've always been banked towards the robotics aspect, and I've been indulged with the club activities as well as the team activities. So for me, it was, I wanted to stay in the industry. I mean, be it any kind of role, and being in team, working with drones and UAVs and stuff since my first year, that kind of helped me to get into this line. You said core, so there are various aspects. So core is not just related to your mechanical or thermodynamics or propulsion stuff. uh, Anything related to aerospace can be considered as core. So that was my motive, to stay in the field sort of. Yeah, so Irene said it right. Certain stuff begins quite late, as per our curriculum, and but it's never late. I mean, at whenever you are pursuing your second year or third year stuff, you will be got you'll get kind of lots of opportunities to try hands on this stuff. So yeah, that was about the motivation. uh, how are we proceeding?
Yeah, so I mean, how did you apply for your internships at Airbus? Like, was it through SPO?
It was through SPO, but for me it came really late. It came only a few weeks back. So it's the portal's closed, but it's still through the college. So when it comes to companies like Airbus, basically they do not hire BTech students from outside college. So if they want interns, they come through the institute and we have to apply. So you would see like if you type Airbus intern or Boeing intern, you don't get anything on the internet. So it is only through the institute. Other than that, every other intern has been on my own. I've been applying off campus. So it's mostly like, so I started in my second year. So we have basic fluid dynamic courses. So I liked fluid dynamics. So I decided I'll start with fluid dynamics because like what more could go wrong? I have to start somewhere, right? I started with fluids. So he gave me work, the professor. He gave me work in things that are not exactly fluids, but more like computation. So it was parameter estimation. Like I could apply it anywhere else. It's like generic. You should ask for work like that. So you're not like confined to one field. And From there, I got my summer intern. So that was, I applied to companies that had CFD, that is fluid dynamics. And the company that got back to me also did not want me to do CFD. Instead, they wanted me to do ML on planes. So, like motivating. But yeah, so I started out with ML, and towards the end, they gave me some parameter estimation. And so from there, I'm like, this is what I want. So I pretty much completely changed my field at the end of my second year summer from fluid dynamics to things like parameter estimation, that is controls basically. And so I restarted, learning and applying to interns from my third year in control. So now I'm in that field. Yeah. So from third year, you have a lot of elective options. So every time you have an elective, don't just take something where you'll get good grades. Try to do things that really help you, because doing coursework in a particular subject will give you like deep knowledge. Like you would probably not get it if you study it on your own. And I did controls electives, and we had not done any controls courses, but you can still do it. Like Penn said, you can always do it on your own. Like it's not that difficult. So pick up the electives that you actually want to do and continue with it. Like don't have any doubts. Tell the professor you'll do it. It's fine. So yeah, that's where I am. So I did one of these interns, the one you talked about, Range Aerospace. I did it through the semester. So I did approach them for the summer intern, but they had work during the semester. So I did it like in a slow pace, but I did it through the semester. It's like if you were in campus, you would be doing a project with a prof. It was similar to that, except at the company. And working in a startup is amazing, especially for us where we do not have opportunities to go to a big company immediately. Startups are great. Like they give you hands-on experience. They teach you. You basically come out like a few years in a startup is basically like getting your master's. Right? It's even better, maybe, if you ask me. So yeah, thanks.
uh, yeah, so yeah, first of all, if you get any kind of a noise or something, do let me know. Actually, it just started raining. I had to run kind of. So cool. Yeah, so as I said, for me, it was more towards I wanted to stay in the industry, and quite fascinating. I was, uh, quite fascinated about drones and UAV stuff. I had worked quite a lot. So when my phase of internship started, my first agenda was that I won't be applying through SPO. I won't be applying to, like bulk applications, which all people do kind of. And so I didn't apply via SPO. I started, I just started shooting mails to various startups and overseas companies. So even before I also like got selected at Airbus eventually, but even before I applied at Airbus via SPO, I'd already applied to Boeing, Airbus, Lockheed Martin, this kind of stuff. They always have their applications open, but especially when you are still in your BTech years, this kind of big companies, they generally, especially when they are abroad, they don't prefer to call people like that, and they have a kind of very slow timeline. So you can assume like it generally takes around 3-4 months to get a first response from them. So I had applied to all the kind of eVTOL taxi companies, Uber, Elevate, and this kind of all the fancy stuff which I felt might be suitable for me. So one thing for me was clear. I didn't want to do a research intern. I wanted to be in the commercial segment in the industry, and hence I was applying towards whatever I felt my strengths were. So I was in the like controls and simulations as well as hardware integration. So I was like kind of apply. I started applying around November, uh, like slightly before November, kind of. And then what happened was that things were getting slow. As I said, you get a first reply for around 2-3 months and stuff. And meanwhile, the Airbus had came to the SPO, and so with some special request, I found the profiles also quite in line with whatever I wanted to do. So with some special requests, I kind of applied via SPO portal to Airbus, and it was like a straight shortlist, first interview, and then I got the offer. That was the stuff. Though I didn't continue my intern at Airbus because of the COVID situation. So as I mentioned, my strengths were kind of towards the hardware projects. So due to COVID situation, this project was shut down. So the intern was kind of revoked due to COVID. But I then found my ways, in the startup space. So yeah, that was my application towards Airbus, like how I went through it. Next, I think, Abhinav, would you like us to discuss on how actually, what stuff are involved or what?
Yeah, like outside of the SPO intern drive, how do you look for opportunities? How do you how do you look
Okay.
for opportunities, and how would you approach these opportunities? Like, how would you
Okay.
go
So I
about?
think, before slightly, I would like to deroute a bit. And, the first step is to have an attitude towards code. So there are three types of scenarios in general, you know, uh, be it SPO, non-SPO, that's a logistical constraint. But in general, people would be willing to go for non-core, people would be willing to go for core internships, and people would be going for core research internships, right? So, before proceeding, what one should have a clear cut agenda is like what they want to do in the long term. Like, do they want to stay in the fields and do the masters or kind of PhD stuff in Arrow? Then that you have to, like, that's your long goal, right? Long term goal. Sometimes you might have a long term goal that you just want to completely get out of Arrow and engineering. Then that implies that your long term goals are towards the non core fields. And sometimes it's something like me, where I was quite sure. I had done a couple of research projects during my surge in the second year summers and all. So I was kind of aware of what exactly goes into research and all. So I had a kind of an instinct that I won't do masters or PhD in Arrow, but I'll stay in the field, right? So that was the decision for which I choose the core industries. So yeah, so these are the three main starting points of your decision. So anyone should be first clear on these lines, and if they are not, then I think there are certain ways. Talk to seniors, talk to professors, uh, and in general, whatever decisions you take in life, you never know what you want to do. You just start doing stuff, and then you start striking things off that, yeah, I want to do this, did research, then I felt that, yeah, I won't do research. That's the case. So you can go that way and make a decision. Okay, so after your decisions are final, right? For non-core stuff, as Irene mentioned, there are quite well-established processes and well-established, preparation guides for getting an intern and job, or a career in non-core especially. So be it consulting, be it project management or product management, and various other fields, be it finance. So every other channels have a definite plan, a kind of methodology which is established, that you'll follow that and you'll land up somewhere good. So that's about the non-core stuff. Going for the research stuff, it's like you can easily, there are lots of mailing lists and there are lots of programs available at some good and decent universities, where you can apply as a summer research intern, and you can get those based on your profile. And talking about those research internships, core research internships is a separate agenda altogether. Again, there are various methods in it, where you start preparing your stuff, LOR, CV, and the cover letters and all, and you finally apply to those programs. There are some certain bulk programs, right, which are especially meant to onboard lots and lots of research students. That programs are one way, and mailing to professors and labs is another way. So that is about research internships. Coming to the third part, which is the core industry internships. So as I said, especially in the aerospace segment, I like to address this particular segment via distributing it abroad and India, right? So what happens is that for abroad, there are certain well-established companies, there are certain well-established startups related to aerospace field. And by aerospace field, I mean there is lots and lots of non-implied things also, right? So it's not just about airplanes. There are certain companies which are not indulged into airplane making or anything, but still they hire aerospace engineers because of certain skills, be it like CFD, for example, and general flow stuff. So that kind of companies are there, that kind of institutions are there, who hire people, right? So what I have observed is, problem with them is there is no established channel for it. And second problem with them is key, people generally take lots of time, and the processes are too much delayed because of the bulk hiring and stuff, right? So what I did was, I kind of prepared a list. Since I was in the field, I knew which all companies, which all startups are there. So I kind of I went through their website, I went through their jobs and careers pages. I pinged the people. If it's a small startup, I directly ping them on LinkedIn. And this is how I kind of shared my resume, my interest, and I started applying to this stuff. So as an intern, what happens is, abroad there is a concept of kind of 6-month internship and all. So 3-month internship, generally people do not prefer, one. And if the field which you are interested in is, if that can be done virtually, that's the best thing. Because due to this COVID situations, there is lots of disruption, and everyone is preferring virtual internships and all. You'll be getting paid a bit less, but I think the experience is what matters when you are talking about your internship. So never look for the pay and stuff, right? So yeah, so that was the agenda. So I started doing that. And regarding so this was about abroad, right? So I was already getting slow responses and all stuff. And then there was a parallel thing which I had kept as a backup, and that was the Indian segment. So talking particularly in India, if you want to get an internship within India, within Indian bounds, be it the startup industries or established industries with their research centers in India, uh, it is relatively simpler, it is relatively feasible, because people can provide you with the all the kind of if they can foresee you coming there and they know about what IIT is, what IIT Kanpur Aerospace is, that kind of reputation with your institution and department is already set in their minds. So yeah, so in India what happens is I had kept that as a backup plan because I was quite in touch with lots of people in the drone space, especially in industry. So that is relatively an open segment, so that industry has not yet matured, and people, so there are always some constraints with funds and related logistical issues with the startup. So they generally don't prefer to come over to the SPO and hire and that kind of stuff, but you can always reach them out. They are very accessible and you can always showcase your skill set and you can get up there. So yeah, I think this answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Prince, for
Hello.
your insights. For such core opportunities, how do you think? Uh, how did you prepare for it? What skills do these companies expect from you in your role, and like what resources did you use for this?
Yeah. So, when we say that getting a core internship is not structured and not a well established process, is this particular thing. So, we don't have, kind of a particular set of resources, particular sets of website or questionnaire or this kind of sample stuff which you can prepare to, right? So, okay. So, here, take it on a lighter note or whatever, but this is the agenda which I feel it works all the time, right? So core core field is such that you can't just make up your mind by waking up a day and thinking that yeah, I'll just go and land up in a core job by doing certain standard stuff. It's a journey of preparations, right? So in my case, what was this thing was that I had never, for at least for my internships, I had never explicitly prepared to just for an interview or anything. It was just that I did all the relevant stuff through all my 1 or 2 years before internship. I had that projects in mind, and I knew all the stuff which I kept on my resume thoroughly and inside out, right? And I only applied to places where I felt I can really add some value, and it correlated with my projects and whatever stuff I did, right? So that is, that's a strategy which is an ideal thing. It's not a preparation tip or something, but it's a core requirement. So not just internship, when you will go further towards your placements and stuff, you'll see that people generally prepare like taking a 1-2 months window. This kind of strategy works for the non-core roles because they're in an established process, but as you see in the core stuff, there is no such established process. So what exactly you are doing, you should be knowing it. And whatever you're applying to, right? Let's say if you're applying for controls, if you're applying for aerodynamics profile or propulsion profile, so you might, you see, you have to add some value. You have to see from the eyes of the company and go other side of the table. And if you feel you are an ideal candidate for the role, and just you're confident about your projects, that's how you kind of approach and core interview, right? So that is one thing. And another thing is, like, there are some standard set of things, right? Just like, for example, let's say you are doing controls or flight mechanics, for example. Then you should be knowing, you can revise the stuff of flight mechanics, which is standard theory which is available and all. So that is how you prepare for it, right? And that becomes a very solid and short strategy. So that's why I said the first step is making up your mind to do a core uh, internship.
Yes, so I went through the entire process of finding a research intern. So my plan was I'm actually interested in research. When you're in aerospace, you have a lot of opportunities to do research because that's the easiest to get, a lot more easier than a good industry intern. So the process of getting a research intern is apping. So You find professors who you think are doing things that are similar to you. You ask them for work, and you hope that they reply. So it requires mailing. I think I mailed like 100 profs when I finally got a good opportunity. So you have to mail. You have to. You can look at sample mails that are sent by seniors. I think I used the exact same template as someone else who had got a good return. So follow somebody who's listened to. My professor used to say that make your email short so that they at least read it. If they don't like it also, at least they'll read it. So yeah, you keep all this in mind. And so the problem is when you're applying for a research intern in your second year, you probably don't have ideas in your mind. Like you don't have a specific research idea. But I again applied for research interns this year, and I could uh, ping a professor telling that this is what I want to do. Like you don't actually have to do anything. You just tell me like if I'm going wrong somewhere, like this is the exact controller I want to make, or like I have my research idea. Like I could, if you give me a few years, I could probably write a thesis on it. So you improve that much over 1 year. So if you're applying for something in second year, then you have to show that you have the interest to learn. It's not you. It's okay to show that you don't know things, but you want to learn. That's important. And like Pen said, like there is no preparation. Like so, I applied through SPO. Like so, when I applied through the SPO, it was pretty much I had no company to apply to for months. Okay, so I'm like, as I said, I'm interested in core. I was not going to apply to any other non-core companies, and I could see like there are so like I could just apply and get disappointed because I have not prepared. You have to prepare. If you want a non-core intern, you have to prepare for at least a month or two. Like if it was me and if I was interested, I'd prepare for a year, right? But so if you're not prepared, like most of my friends, if you go and apply, you'll probably not get it. You would be sad, and on top of that, you're not doing your own core work. So it's better to not apply to these. Apply when and where you get an opportunity. So the first one that came was Mitsubishi. And I think if you look at the SPO directory where you have all the profiles and what they ask, the tests and all, you'll see that for the core interns, there are no tests. Like even if there are more companies coming, there will be no tests. It's all based on your resume. And resume, as Pen said, is what you do. So from the time you join college, everything you do, your projects, your internships, uh, whatever small competition you take part in, club projects, all of these add to your resume and how much knowledge you have. So your resume is basically showing how experienced you are. And it doesn't really matter if your profile is in like the exact same as what the company needs. What they are looking for is, have you done work in that domain? So like aerospace, you probably know there are 4 domains, right? Kind of 4 domains. So if you've done at least similar work in that domain, the probability that somebody else has done it is very less. Like the number of people interested in core is less. On top of that, the number of people who stay in core is less. And on top of that, somebody who picks your same domain is less. So if you stick with it and if you keep doing what you like, and if a company comes with the same profile, you will probably get it. So you do not have to explicitly prepare. And for company specific, like you can prepare after you get shortlisted. Like this is what I've been doing. The minute you get shortlisted, find out seniors who have given interviews, who have gotten selected, ask them what happens, and you're done. Like, that's it. So there is no amount of like specific preparation. You just got to make yourself better. Like you just get better all the time. So yeah. So there is this site, I don't know if people know about it. So what happens is I look for industry interns, like how I came in touch with Range Aerospace. So I'm into core, yet I did a startup intern. That was because I got tempted by everybody else getting interns. This happens when the internship season starts. Day 1 and day 2, like my entire batch was like placed, right? So I'm looking at what can I do. Like I know I want in core. What can I do? Like, even if it is unpaid, I want to do something. So yeah, I searched extensively for like 2 days, and I applied to many companies. And the process is like you just ping them. Like it doesn't matter if they take you in or not. You email them, email the HR, email people, give them why they should pick you. You'll get in. So this Zeus numerics that I had gotten in the summer, I'm pretty sure that I didn't even remember that I mailed them when they called me. When they called me telling me like there's an opportunity, I was legit like trying to figure out when did I mail them. Like I don't even remember mailing them. It was like that. So yeah, do it. And For the interview parts of these companies that do come through SPO or otherwise, everything is based on your resume. They want you to explain your projects. They want you to they want to know how well you know your projects. So like, why did you do the projects? Like, why did you end up picking this project and not anything else? Like, why ML in the middle? Like, you're doing all aerospace things. Why did you do ML in the middle? So you need to have answers like that. Show your interest in the field. Tell them this is your plan. And if you're sitting for an industry intern, then I would suggest not mentioning masters. So as I said that I do the research and doing masters, and at least masters there. So mentioning that you want to do masters is not a good thing. So companies like Mitsubishi that do come, so they came for fluid dynamics. And because I had done a little bit of fluid dynamics in my second year, that's how I got shortlisted. And the shortlisting process is like, it takes a month or two for them to shortlist from everybody who's applied. And they shortlist so well. Like, if you look at everybody else who had been shortlisted with me, everybody had like some kind of fluid dynamics background. Like, you can see, like, nobody who's undeserving would get shortlisted. So you have to make sure that your work stays there. And yeah, so in the fluid dynamics part, I was able to show them that I like fluid dynamics, even though I was sure that I didn't want to do it. But I did tell them that I was going to do masters because I was very honest. I don't know why. But from what I found out after the interview was that companies like this, they do not prefer students who want to do masters. Rather, they want the students to grow in the company. So after that's only for companies like Mitsubishi. In India, they want you after masters or after some experience. But in companies like Mitsubishi or things that are on the east of India, that's near Japan, it's basically they grow you, like they give you the training from the time you're young. So keep that in mind. Yeah, so the ready-made answer that I say right now is that I want to grow myself technically. Like, that can be anything, right? So what's your like 5 to 10 years goal? I'm like, I want to grow technically. I want to be so good at my work that nobody can ask questions to me. So yeah, that's it, I guess. What are we proceeding with?
Yeah, so that's the time agenda, like you are doing engineering stuff, be it intern, be it placements or whatever. You need to have interest. So it's not like you are, just passively looking towards core internship. It doesn't happen that way, right? So companies have a very, very specific agenda. Companies or even the institutions have a very specific agenda to kind of, they bank on getting the skills out of you. So it's never fruitful them for them to hire some good IQ person and just train them. You need to have some base, some background, uh, or at least a willingness to learn in that background to go through that, right? And if you're just one more thought that clicked me was doing core research at other institutions, right? There is another thing which, like, apart from mapping and mailing, what you can rather do is you just go, every professor has their kind of a homepage, every lab has their websites which is regularly updated, what kind of projects they do, what kind of stuff they want and all, right? So let's say you're targeting ATH Zurich, for example. You found a lab there and you want to work like that is quite aligned with your uh, agenda and domain and all, right? So another good way is to just find out who all seniors and alumni are there at that institute. It's a bingo if you find someone who's working in that particular lab, right? And you just reach out to them. They can give you more insights on what kind of people, what kind of skill sets they are hiring to look into. So let's say if you are a guy who want to uh, structure, right? Let's say you did work in structure, you want to do something in composites and like that. So you just found a lab, you found the seniors who was working there, and you contacted them, and you got to know that, yeah, they are looking someone who is well versed into structures and all, and then you just mail up, and you get a kind of a indirect referral that maximizes your chance of getting into that thing. This is like this is not a like one strategy, it's like over the top of mailing and mapping stuff. Okay.
Yeah, so like finally, is there like any specific advice? Like, could you just summarize what all advice you would give to somebody who's like interested in exploring such like industrial opportunities?
Yeah. So first thing is, if you are doing a core engineering stuff, the main prime motive and your thrust behind you doing that is probably the knowledge, the engineering field itself, right? So you should be like, as I said, I'm just repeatedly saying the same thing. You should be very very into it. Like, you should be very interested into it. You should be having some kind of a background into it, or at least a willingness to do it. So what happens is, there is always a void, be it institutions, be it startups, be it established companies. There is always a void which is there, and you can fill that void, right? So what the process is simple. You have a background, and you are kind of trying to find that void and just go and place yourself there. There is no competition, and you're definitely gonna like your work. You're definitely, it's a win-win for everyone, be it the other side of the table or be it you. You will grow. And like, I just wanted to emphasize more on the Indian startup space, right? So there are lots of uh, startups which are emerging in aerospace sector, right from a simple component UAV factory to composite fabrication companies to the e-plane e-taxi companies. And we now have some kind of space vehicle companies too in India, right? So what happens is, but that's the kind of demand which is there, and there is never an enough supply to cater to that demand, right? People are never motivated. Like, very less fraction of people are really into, with interest into core stuff. And if you feel you are the one, go and contact them. They would be more than happy to take you on board, right? People are always scouting for this kind of people. They don't get good people in core, right? So if you have anything relevant, you can just contact them and you are done, right? Everyone is done. So now, that's the top strata. Now for this, you should have some kind of, you should have that kind of skill set, and whatever I'm saying, right? So that skill set, that interest, and that kind of a work portfolio can be developed while you are in college. IIT Kanpur is, trust me, it has the best aerospace facilities, and it is very very undervalued in terms of uh, whatever seniors tell you, whatever the professors make you feel, right? There are only certain amount of professors, certain percentage of professor in our department who can really motivate you. Whenever you'll be doing some departmental compulsory courses, you would come across them and you'll identify the professors who are really into developing, and the inner engineer inside you, right? So that kind of attitude is the first step. Then you start. And same is the case with professors and inside the campus. So professor also scout for good people. They never get a good dedicated person, right? If you feel you have interest, if you show some dedication, you have your work portfolio, professor would be happy. He would be writing a very good LOR for you, right? You can use it anywhere you want. You are developing a solid work profile, you are gaining knowledge, and you will be applying anywhere. You would be easily filling in the void, and everything goes as smooth, right? So that's the core core of core.
So when you've figured out that you want to stay in core, right? You've got a lot of figuring out to do. Like, how do you know what is your field? Like, what kind of work do you want to do? So like, you've just got to explore. Like, there is no other way. Nobody can tell you that you're good at this, you're bad at this. Like, so the best thing to do is eliminate. Like, for some reason, I knew that some like structures and propulsion and all was not going to work for me. Like, it is interesting. Like, regardless of the fact that I don't want to do it, it is still very interesting. So most things you find in aerospace will be interesting just because it's cool. it is one of the topmost things you can do in every field, right? But you might not be good at it. I'm just bad at all these things, so I'm not going to do it. So I have eliminated these. Now I have to explore like everything else. Find that sweet spot. It's like optimization. You go from one point and you make opportunities for yourself. Go to the next point, which is best for you. Over there, you make more opportunities. Like, so making this opportunities part, like I would say, if you're not very confident about what you want to do, you make multiple of these. Like, try to explore a few things together. So when you're doing an industry intern, it might be difficult because there is deadlines and you have to talk to people, there are meetings and stuff like that. But if you're doing a project with profs, pick multiple profs in the same area. So once you find out that, like for me, when I found out that I like controls, I did was I contacted multiple people doing different things in controls. So then I got a clearer idea. Like in a month or two, you'll figure out what it is that you like out of these profs, and you can go ahead and continue. So, and these profs are not very judgmental, most of them, because they know that like they are also trying to explore things. They would never hold it against you. All you have to do is finish the work, try to document it, stuff like that. But once you find what you like, you can again, spread out and do things. So try to go to that place where you get ideas, like where your brain works. Like, there is some place where you're good at, right? Try to find that. It'll take time, but find it. So it's important. Yeah, elimination, like that's my best thing. So some might call you crazy, right, when you do multiple projects and stuff, but it's okay. People think I'm crazy for doing so many things, but it's okay. You're doing what you have to do.
Yes, it's a easy balance. Like if people are thinking that doing this will kind of make you a muggu type of thing, that's not the case. That's never the case. You do so many things in your life. This campus gives you so many opportunities that that will just make your life. It's like just make it or break it types. I think we should take questions now.
Yeah. So I mean, if there's nothing that you guys have to add, then I guess we'll open the panel for questions.
Yes, I guess.
Like if anybody has any questions, you can just unmute and speak up. Anything that you'd like to ask.
Is coding a necessity for a good profile while applying for interviews or
Okay, so as I said, you might have done some work, whatever you are applying to and whatever you are doing to, right? And most of the work, I'd say 90% of the work involves coding, right? So it really is a prime thing which you don't need to know a kind of a competitive programming or object oriented stuff. You should know like how to write a MATLAB code. You should have the basics of at least the ESC basics you should be having. And like every stuff involves some sort of coding, right? So that is something which it's a language, right? Like you can't go anywhere in the world without speaking English. It's same as that. You should have at least an understanding of code. It again depends on let's say if you're in that 10% of the strata where you might not have you are not into the core things much, but still at least I think a MATLAB is something which it's a prime thing. I mean, you have it in your courses and all, right? So I think that is enough. No need to go for any competitive programming or that kind of particular things in general.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. So I had this question to Irene. You mentioned about apping. So if you could please throw more light on what is the process of apping, and how do we shortlist labs or professors we want to work with, or how do we narrow down our path or through the past work that we have done?
Yeah, so I apt for fluid dynamics, the computational fluid dynamics, because that's what I had done in my second year. The entire process was wrong because I do not like it anymore. But the process is like so I took all universities that were in top in the US and in Europe. So specific country. So I went to each country and I apply to the top. So I go to the website, I find the professors, and I look at the work they're doing. So it's easier if you look at the papers they are publishing. So if there is something that kind of strikes with you, then that's the one for you. So I used to mail on an average, like, so in CFD, I used to look at aerospace and mechanical department because they both usually have CFD things. And it used to be like maybe 4 or 5 profs in each college. I used to mail them. And so you have to keep a list of who you're mailing and how many times you're mailing them. So you can mail them at least twice, I think. And if, as Penn said, if you know seniors in the same colleges, and if they happen to be in the same lab, then these seniors can actually, like, if the prof hasn't replied to you even after like 2 tries, and they can actually kind of help you with it. So this happened, like this happened for me for U Tokyo. So yeah, that's helpful too. It's mostly like finding the college, go to the department, find the profs who are similar to you, and when you're sending the mail again, you would have to change, like you would have a structured mail about you, and then when it comes to the part about the work you want to do, you would want to involve something that the prof has done. So that would be a reason paper or some papers that he's done in the past. So right now, if I was sending a mail, I would tell him that I want to make such a change, or I want to apply it to this system, or so, like I would suggest something that can be done. But back then when I mailed everybody, it was like, I'm interested in this, I would like to know more about this. It was more like that, but that was not so good. And for research interns, it's easier to get in your third year, especially a paid one. If you want to get it sponsored, it's easier once you have proper, experience, at least 1 year of experience. So in second year, getting a paid one is rare, I would say, but it's still possible. Like you have to, like, it's a lot of it is luck. That's why you mail many people. But again, if you mail 300 people, like in random, it's not going to work. You have to find someone who really likes what you're doing. So yeah, don't randomize. Like I would say that, like when you're applying for interns on the portal through SPO, just don't apply to all companies. Like it makes no sense. Like you should do what you like. So apply to professors who also do things that you could probably imagine yourself doing later. So what I do is, like when I see a paper or so, I check, like if I was a part of this group that did came up with the paper that published it, or if I was helping out with this work, will I get bored, or will I be wasting my time? Like wasting my time as in to my goal, I want to get somewhere, right? I want to be good in my core, I want to do something in aerospace. Will it help me or will it not help me? So that's what I keep answering all the time. Don't waste time. Like even if you get a really good intern, let's say through SPO, let's say you were so lucky and so talented, you get it without even preparing. But the problem is that after the 3 months, you've wasted potential time where you can actually build your resume. Like your core resume, time is going out. Like even if I'm like so tempted to apply to a particular company, by the time I go to the application, I'm like, no way. What if I get selected? If I get selected, then I'm going to be wasting 3 months. So that's just not something I wanted. So yeah, for apping, it's that I used to have a book, and in the back of the book, I used to have the prof's name, the country, the university, prof's name, and email ID. I would suggest not writing the email ID because it goes wrong all the time. But yeah, that's it. And before sending the email, I make sure that it's in the same field. I have written my interests are the same thing. Don't get it wrong.
Thank you.
Yeah, apping is relatively easy. You just need time to send the mails, and you have to be like patient to get the replies.
So approximately in what time do we get the mails from professors?
Okay, so in my second year, I started mailing in my holidays. So December, Jan. I did some extent, like some kind of full-fledged mailing in Jan when I went to college. And I got like I started getting replies, I think towards Jan end. And I finalized like, so once you get replies, then you have to maintain a relationship with the prof. You have to like do a little bit of work. Like you have to at least do 1.5 months of work. After that, they'll be like, you can come. Then you have all the visa processes. So if it's for US, then you have to like get it done by like Feb. By March, like I had gotten the letters and stuff. So you have to like finish the whole process by March.
Okay.
Start early, like you're not going to lose anything. So I think my seniors used to tell me that there's people apply for masters, they also send emails. So try to email when it's like in between semesters, like spring and fall. So that's the December January, when the applications are over for masters and you're applying. So your email gets noticed.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
There are more crazy things, like try to email in the morning at 5 in the morning. So if you use Google, then you can schedule it and send it so that it's the first thing in the morning. Like there are so many things, but it's a lot of it is luck. Like, so just keep sending mails to people you like.
Yeah, and
Even with IIT professors haven't worked out sending mails at 7, 6. And I do end up getting replies after a day or two.
Okay. Yeah.
yes. So also make sure that you kind of you can follow a template, but not to blindly copy it, because this kind of stuff is available with the professors. Your mail will directly go to spam. So yeah, this is also important.
So can
Anything
you
else?
provide some insight into the UGP, like the undergraduate projects, and specifically in the upcoming semester, like in the third year, we have one UGP which is optional, UGP 1. So if someone is willing to take that, would you recommend it, or in a way?
So basically, so you ought to do some kind of work, right? You do it as a UGP, you do it like just as a project or anything that doesn't add to some high value. So like it's all the same. That's what I'm trying to say. The the problem with UGP sometimes is that you have to kind of show stuff. So this can be a problem as well as a motivation for some. So there are some formal things associated with the UGP, right? You need to kind of make a presentation and defend whatever you did at the end of UGP. So if you have that bandwidth and you want to do it, then I think that's fine. You can opt it as an UGP. You'll get a place to formally show it. Did that answer what you were asking?
So I had this doubt when I was when I had the option to do UGP. So I was already doing a project with a professor, so I could have easily converted it to UGP, and it would make no difference because I'm working like I was systematically working on it, so it would like I would just have to give one presentation and that's it. But like if you're already working with a prof, making it into a UGP is not much of a big thing. If you have difficulty, contacting profs and getting them to give you work, then if you contact them, telling them it's for a UGP, then they'll probably not say no. So for a new prof for a new project, you can try to get a UGP. But if you're already on a project, then it makes no difference. This is what I found out.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Thanks.
You can ask anything.
So, Guys, if you have any questions, you can ask, or you can even type in the chat. We will ask the panelists. I had another question about mailing and applying for opportunities with startups. So, as you said that you usually go to the website of the startup, and there you can go to the careers page and you can apply from there, or you can directly mail people from link or message people on LinkedIn. So, matlab, how different is it? And when you are messaging someone on LinkedIn, then what should you mention in that message? And when you are mailing an HR, then how your mail should be formed. So what kind of difference should be there between the two?
So when I
Um,
sent the mails to HR, it was similar, very similar to what I had sent to professors, expressing this is what I do, and if there's any opportunity, you can get back to me. But when you like applying to the startup, which I actually got, it was through this site called angel.co. So it's like Internshala, but it's like more aesthetic for startup kind of thing, and it's very nice. I found multiple things on it, and the guy, the co-founder of this, was from IITK, and like Penn said, like it's a big advantage. Like having people from IITK here and there is like the biggest advantage of being in IITK. So I personally appealed to him because I was like, I'm from your alma mater, give me work. That's exactly what I said, and he set me up with his colleagues, and I was given work. So getting the reply is the thing, and them having the requirement. So I have mailed Skyroot, I think, Skyroot, because my mom told me, and I've mailed them like I think every month I mailed them once, and I still haven't got a reply. But
Yeah,
so
even
yeah,
I have been mailing and messaging the founder, but I haven't got a reply.
yeah. So on LinkedIn, I'm not sure. I have never done these things. I don't. I'm not that into mailing people, but I know friends who have gotten interns that way, and it works. So if you can do it, you should do it.
Yeah, but
yes, it works. So only problem with LinkedIn works all the time, like most of the time. I have a very good connection, especially in Indian aerospace industry. But the problem with LinkedIn is you might have to, you should have an idea whom you are mailing and whom you are messaging, right? It should not be annoying for those people, right? So I think it's okay to first go and mail people, and if you are not getting replies via mail, then I think you can ping them on LinkedIn. That works too. Mail is definitely more authentic. You can share quite resources which you have done, and angel list is the best. I mean, in terms of finding startups and finding good candidates both way. So angel list is really good.
So, a question for Irene: what resources did you use to learn about CFD?
Okay, so my professor does work in CFD. What I did is not at all CFD. It was data from CFD, that is simulations, and I analyzed it. So that's why I said I was given general work. I did analyzing of data. So it was pretty much like a little bit like ML, but scientists would not like it if I said it was machine learning. But I did use a lot of machine learning and linear regressions and stuff on data that was already simulated. So other than that, I think to study simulation, I think you should do at least one course. So one elective would be more than enough, FEM or something. So it's not difficult. You just need to know the software, and there are open source softwares. You can do that. It's like whatever project you do, you learn for that. Like when I started this project, I started with MATLAB, and I didn't know MATLAB, and because I had to learn it, I like it's like automatic. It's not a course that I did like ESC where you electives to teach about CFD. There are electives for CFD. I know about FEM, Sanjay Mittal sirs, because he has got a lab. He's got a lot of work. So in the winter, I did go to do CFT with him, and I didn't like it. So yeah, Yash is telling you all of the electives. I never did these electives either because I figured that I don't like it.
I did one of them. I did 618 last time, and it was a pretty nice course. Mittal sir teaches very well. So if you are planning to, then you should take it.
And if you were like in your first year or something, and you want to learn CFT, approach professors. Like professors will basically give you material to learn for a long time. It's enough.
Yeah. You'll get an access to their MTech and PhDs, and you can directly go solve the doubts. And regarding startup space, there is a there is a big void in the industry. There are very few good people available, and be it any of the aerospace domain, it's blooming right now. And people are very much dependent on Chinese things and all. There's lots of things which are going on, so it's quite a space if you really are into core industries and all. Anything else?
If anyone else has any questions, they can ask, or we'll end the session and we'll share the recording with everyone.
You can always ping me, anywhere, Facebook, LinkedIn, anywhere. I'll take it up.
Yeah, you can ping me too, right?
Okay, so then I guess if there are no more questions, we'll have some closing thoughts from. I mean, we'll have the closing from Rishika.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Irene and Pence, for taking out time to be here. And we might have been sort of difficult to deal with because this was some of the first things that we did as a session, and we hope that you liked being a part of it. And thanks to all the people who are still here. If you have any suggestions for us on how we can do the future sessions, or any improvements that we can include, or any topics that we can further address for the department, then please contact us. And thanks a lot for joining us. And thank you, Irene and Pence. It was a pleasure. So I'll end the
Yeah,
meeting.
it was nice for us being here. And as I said, aerospace IIT Kanpur is undervalued. Just make sure by the end of your tenure it is at least at par with its value.
Okay.
Seriously, like the work we're doing is like the coolest. Like, don't let anybody else say anything else. If you go abroad, like aerospace is kind of a lot more difficult to get. Like, India is just a little crazy right now.
So I think we'll close the session here. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Irene. Thanks, Pence.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
thank you
Bye-bye.
for hosting the session.
Yeah. Okay. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
You too.